Wherever you are.
Well, welcome to another episode Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Nick. Do you like
Hello.
do you like Nick or Nicholas?
I go by a lot of names. So Nick, Nicholas, whatever anyone calls me, I typically respond to.
I like
For
every I like
3
everything but
years.
I like everything but Robert because when people say the word Robert, it like the neck hairs stand up and I'm like, "Oh, it's like when I'm getting yelled at. Every teacher that's ever hated my life has been
Yeah.
like, "Ugh."
No, I feel that. I actually hated like the name Nick as a kid because everyone was Nick. No one was Nicholas as a kid. So I always went by Nicholas, and then in the last 2 years since essentially my work started calling me Nick, that's when I started going by Nick.
But it's a good thing though. Well, maybe not in the common that everyone has it, but like when you're playing a video game and you get a character creation, like try finding a name that's like Beowulf. It's like, no, we're not gonna give you that one. It's like you have a like you ever go to Walmart or something, you see the little like
Yeah.
vacation things that have your name on it. It took me ages to find one that said Robbie until finally one day one dude was like, hey, let's let's find a name that's not that we don't have. But there's always a Jim, there's always a Joe, there's always a
Hmm.
John, there's always all these names with J. And I'm like, can we start bringing back the old school classic names? Like instead of Crystal or Diamond, maybe we do something like Aristotle or Edgar Allan Poe, or I don't know, something that sounds old and mystical that makes me seem like a cool kid in school.
Okay, but you say a cool kid in school. How many kids are going to be super happy being named Aristotle in
I would be,
today's time?
I would look at that guy like, yo, he is related to Merlin the magician, and he has magical powers like Sorcerer's Apprentice style. I would be
For
friends with that
sure.
kid.
That's true, yeah. All right, I'm on board now. I'm going to name my kid Aristotle.
Like if your name's Bob, and like the teacher just like if I was a teacher, I'd just look up at you and be like, did your parents just assume you're gonna be like the thing from Fairly Odd Parents where everybody's a blob that's exactly the same? Like there's nothing interesting about you. The guy's like, I can juggle, and you're like, that's kind of interesting. But at the same time, your name's Bob. Like,
Your parents set you up for a boring life. Like,
man,
I'm sorry.
you're going to be doing your taxes at the age of 15, and that's going to be your job, is working at a desk until one day you finally end it all, sadly. I know that's deep and dark,
Yeah,
but it's you got to think about death sometimes.
I agree. That's kind of like my thing.
That's why I said it. Now, Nick, I have to ask you this before I ask exactly.
Yeah.
Um, so what exactly what would you say, not that you do, but you talk about on this show? Because I have two major questions. One's a psychology question if you need to talk to somebody, but at the same time, I think about it all the time too, so I'm not mad.
So it's that right there where you're like, I do kind of think about death a lot. So I do essentially comedy storytelling, but every story ends with someone dying, or like the middle section is someone dying, depends on the type of story. So a long time ago, I was looking through like Facebook or something, just scrolling and scrolling, and then I came across the Darwin Awards, which are the like stupidest deaths of the year, essentially. And some of those got me thinking, like, what's the story that leads up to that? And the very first one, and the very first episode that I ever did of How Will I Die Pod was there was this lawyer in New York who he had an office in a skyscraper, and his window was bulletproof glass, so it would never break, it wouldn't shatter. So anytime he had a new person come into his office, he would like throw a chair at it or throw his body against it because it wouldn't break. Like, that's a cool thing to show off. But he did it so much that he had actually
Cracked
unset
it.
the window.
Oh my god.
So the last time that he did it, he threw his body against it, and he and the window went out
I know it's
outside and fell, and that's how he died. Was plummeting because he was showing off his super cool window.
you're not supposed to laugh, but
How do
Damn
you
it.
not laugh at that
Damn it.
though?
Because there's people that don't understand jokes. There's just people that don't understand jokes, Nick. And let me tell you something. So,
Yeah, no, I get that.
like, not even 2 weeks ago, I went to my doctor's office, and I thought this was the funniest thing in the world. Where it was like, you go in, you get a depression test before they talk to you. They just ask, "How's your
Mhm.
life going?" And I'm like, "It's 2020 sucks." And I'm just like, "Yeah, yeah." And she goes, "You're marked for severe depression after the test. You scored a 24, and like the highest you can get to 25." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's old shit. I know. Let's get to the actual problem of why I'm here." Um, and she goes, "Do you ever think about, ending it?" And I was like, "Do I ever look at a ceiling fan that's spinning really fast? And what happens if I jump headfirst into it? Yeah, I've had a thought or two about it." I
Yeah,
said it in that comedic style. And then afterwards, you get a little my chart thing where it shows you like the whole list of your description of your visit. The lady wrote it out like I was suicidal as hell. She was like,
God.
"Subject is severely depressed, and he says he was joking, but talked about what happens if he stuck his head in a ceiling fan." And I'm like, oh my God, anybody reading this is gonna be like, what the fuck? And like they don't understand the way I said it, or they don't understand my personality. And I was like, it was
Yeah.
she was foreign, so she wasn't picking up a lot of the humor. Like I would say it, and then she'd be like staring at me like all serious. I'm like, I'm joking. I'm
Oof.
joking. Smile through the mask, please. Um, but I was reading, I was like, wow, people don't understand jokes anymore. And it's like everyone thinks that like you get in your depressive states. Obviously, that's sad if you get to
Yeah.
that point. But at the same time, you ever see 1,000 Ways to Die? There's dumb shit done that
Yeah.
happens to people where it's like, you kind of see like did you think that was gonna work out? Did you think that, like I feel like the people that die are a lot of times it's the good people. And then a lot of the times the people that don't die are the ones that should be like, wow, you're still alive? Like, really?
Yeah. Sometimes people get too many chances in life. I will admit to that. But I super think that when we're nobody likes to talk about death in a comedic way. Like they'll skirt around it, like, oh, it's been bad this year or something like that. But no one will actually like come out and say that dude shot himself. It wasn't funny, but the situation around it kind of was. Let's be honest. Nobody really talks about that,
Here's
and
one for you.
that was one of the things that like drew me to doing the podcast because I am not a podcast professional or anything. I was plenty fine just thinking about this in my own time. And then my friend said, you should just do it as a podcast. Like everyone says to their friend about any idea that they have ever. So I was like, all right, fine. First episode of the podcast. And then people liked it. So I started doing more.
Well, it's interesting just to see, like, you probably are going to get, like, I don't know, depending on how big it gets, like, if you become, like, really out there where everybody knows who you are, which to me, that just seems exhausting because that's when the
Yeah.
hatred doors open up. Like, you're going to get a couple of haters. Like, someone's going to see your thing and be like, oh my God, he's pro all these deaths. It's like, first of all, you want to hear a funny death? Here's a funny death.
Yeah.
You ever research death by coconut?
Yes.
So that is a
Of
very,
course.
very, very big issue. Apparently, I did not know about. Now, I've heard some ones where I'm like, "Geez, that's fucking insane!" Like a dude's eating a sandwich on a lawn chair, and the back of the lawn chair where the metal pole is, like there's that
Mhm.
gap where you can kind of stick your arm through. He was leaning his neck back on that, so his neck was like right behind the spine part, and a coconut fell and hit him in the head and cracked his whole neck backwards and
Yep.
like killed him. I'm like that, like, oh my God, like that is horrible. But then I hear one where like a dude shot himself from a coconut. And you're like, what do you mean he shot himself from a coconut? He used the butt of his gun, had a fucking bullet in the chamber in the thing. He starts
Jesus.
bashing open a coconut and it shoots him in the stomach, and a bullet gets lodged in there and he ends up dying and bleeding out. I see that. I'm like, that's a Darwin Award. That is one
Yeah,
that is
that's a Darwin
awarded.
Award right
That's
there.
that's awarded to you for being a complete idiot. Shoot the coconut.
Yeah, shoot the coconut.
I don't want the bullet
Use
in
a
my milk.
knife.
I don't want the bullet in my milk. It's like, ah, what are you doing? Like, you see these things where it's like, I always had this theory and idea because I feel like the hardest job has to be being on the phone with other people for like a service job, like answering
Oh yeah.
questions about your internet and shit. Like, how many people, like, I always wondered what's the statistic of people that would go to the top of the building and look down and then jump. And you find out in Japan, some of their really hardworking buildings, they have nets all around the building for people
Mhm.
that just jump off. It's like, is that a stress relief? Like, imagine. I'm sick and tired of this. This just pissed me off. And you just jump off the building. Usually that's when you're like, oh shit, I didn't actually mean to do that. Like, you
Mhm.
grasp to grab the ledge, but then you land in a net. You're like, all right, this is a great way to relieve stress.
But if you do it too much, you're the weird guy, right?
He keeps jumping off the building to kill himself. Like, what the fuck is going on in his life? Like, he's off today. This is his vacation day. He just fucking walks in higher body. I'm just gonna go up to the roof real quick.
There's Jim jumping off the roof again for his 8th time this week.
It's not a water park, okay? You might not have a line, but stop. Like, there's got to be a limit on how many times you can ride this ride.
Exactly.
What would you say the weirdest death in your opinion is?
Weirdest death. I don't know. Every death is so unique. At least the ones that I cover. Like I have a Word document of so all of the deaths that I do are based on a real life death, and then I change the story to being me,
Okay.
which is that's the part that people get concerned about with
Yeah.
my mental health because I'm killing different versions of myself.
Well, you're doing yourself a favor in the end of really covering your own basis of not
Yeah,
incriminating another person's family member.
yeah, it's definitely mostly it started out as like a legal thing. Like
Yeah.
I can talk about certain ways that people died, like the dude with the window, but as soon as it comes to like detailing the story of what happened leading up to that, I'm taking artistic liberties with that life. And so if I say something like he was a whore or something, I could be liable for like some kind of slander lawsuit, and I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
It's stupid and bad. So that's why I changed it to being me because I don't care what I say about me.
It's like, what are they going to get? They're going to sue you for saying stuff about yourself. It's like, it's the same thing.
Exactly.
There was a comedian who talked about how she took a bunch of pills because she wanted to kill herself, and someone had called the cops on her. And when she opened the door, the cops pulled a gun out on her, knowing that she was going to kill herself, and pulled a gun out and pointed at her. They go, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "I'm just trying to kill myself." And it's like this whole thing of like, there's this awkward thing in the air of like, are you going to shoot her because of that? Like
Yeah.
it's like you hear those things like cop suicides, that's an awful thing. But
Yeah.
there are crazy ass stories. Like I had two friends that were on recently, the United States of Horror, Jeff and Kaylee. They told me an article about how a person tried to kill another person by slathering peanut butter all over their hands and trying to beat up their neighbor who had a nut allergy. I just fucking look at that like that's a funny fucking article. Like
Yeah.
it might be horrible because it's murder, but it's like it obviously it's not like the ones we see all the time on the TV. It's a new way. Like most of my knowledge about death or stupid deaths would come from 1,000 Ways to Die. Like a dude tried to make a bong out in his house, like using one of those clay ovens. He bought one,
Mhm.
but he hooked it up with a propane tank and one of those barrels, like you see bums light a fire in, like a toxic,
Yeah.
one of those toxic drum barrels. And he puts this clay bong and puts something in it that was like, it's like leaving a fork on a plate when you put it in the microwave. He put
Right.
something that was going to explode in it. He was like, dude, you're not supposed to check it until all the gas is cut off and all this. Well, he ended up getting stoned with his buddy while making a bong, fucking lifted the lid up, and it shot glass shards all on his freaking head and killed him. I just look at that like, what? You went Breaking Bad on yourself. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, that is an entirely like faultable experience and it's yours.
Yeah, like I'm not a baker. I don't know how to use the oven properly. I can barely manage cooking chicken. I'm not going to make a bong. And if that's where I see that, like, I don't want my family to ever come across me dying of something stupid. Like, I'd rather it be like
Mhm.
he jumped in front of a bus saving someone. But like, I don't want to be like, they found him in his closet and he had a belt around his neck. I'm like,
Yeah.
ah. Yeah. So I have to ask, come on now. What would you consider through all the episodes you've done or through all the Word document stuff you've seen, craziest story you've seen?
Um God, yeah, like I was saying, they're all so unique. But like
Well, here's a better
one of the
question then.
okay.
One where the audience would really enjoy to hear, one that you really loved, one that you were like, dang, that's a good one. So far, you're going to have more, obviously, but one that you've come across now that you think the audience would really enjoy, and then your own favorable one.
Okay. The one that I think the audience would enjoy the most, and it's my favorite episode of my podcast, which I don't think you should have one of those, but I do. Um, so there's a thing called like damn, I don't remember what it's called. I recorded that episode 2 years ago. So I don't remember.
I love that.
Essentially, there's like a buildup of carbon under a thin layer of rock in a lake. And every once in a while, that will just explode and like kill people in lakes. It's a really weird thing. Um, for some reason, that was the first time I had a co-host. And for some reason, at the start of it, we made the Nick that was going to die a child. So
Oh my god.
it's an incredibly horrible thing to have, like the killing of a child, but the way that we wrote it together verbally was just so fun, and the horror that goes along with it made it such an enjoyable episode that like that is my favorite thing that I've ever talked about, just because it's such an unnatural natural phenomenon.
I usually reference this comedian because he's probably one of my favorites who's been on the podcast, but his name's Steve Cantwell. His amazing story of a salvia trip, but he was talking about how he lived in Alaska and he had to go get a bear dog. And I'm like, what the fuck's a bear dog? Apparently, it's a dog that's supposed to kind of cover you when a bear comes out, so you have a chance to get away, and the dog kind of takes the hit. Like you're not supposed to name it. You're supposed to keep it in
No.
the you're supposed to keep it in the garage and shit. So like, don't get a close attachment to it. Well, the reason they got one is because their neighbor's baby was eaten by a bear.
Oh my god.
And I'm like, you're in fucking Alaska. You're going out like, oh, we're gonna go take a nice stroll. Like I've seen people walk with their like 4-year-old toddler or something and walk.
Yeah.
Don't fucking let them walk way behind you or walk in front of you. Like they look back and they said, well, their kid was gone. The bear took it away. It's like you left your eyes off your kid. It's like Jesus. Like there are some insane deaths.
Yeah, I don't understand how you let your child get that far away from you as a child in Alaska.
Look, sometimes your kid wants you to be the monster and the kid wants to run around and you got to chase him. That gets fucking tedious after a while. Eventually you're like,
True,
you go
yeah.
fucking run off into the woods and I'll see you in 5 minutes when you realize I'm not chasing you. It's like, you heard about Disney World with the alligators, right?
Yeah, the one that ate was he a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old?
That, like I said,
that's wild.
Every interaction I've ever had in my real life when it comes to like seeing death or being around death has been so severe. But then you hear something insane like that, I'm like, what the fuck? It's like, where's the common sense of washing your kid at all times? Like, you don't take your kid into a movie theater. That's just common decency. And at the same time, you got to understand, you're going into Florida where there's known to be gators, and you have a theme park where there's going to obviously be kids there. So don't be surprised if that ends up happening. Like, we need to kill every gator. I'm like, why are they there?
You went into the gator's home with your child and just let them run free. Like, that's not the gator's fault.
You built a tilt-a-whirl on top of the gator's home, and you expect him not to be upset?
And like the liability issue of Disney being like, we have a sign up, it's cool though. Like, how baller do you have to be as a company to be like, yeah, a child got eaten, but we had a sign, so we're clear.
You got that fast pass. Look, man, I know how bad you want to miss that line, but is it really worth your kid's life? It's like, it's a new ride, brand new. Gotta ride the Batman or the whatever they call it. But I think the most interesting one I've ever heard. So we'll do one interesting one from you, like that you think that you find maybe not the audience would enjoy, but one you like, and also one that you might have encountered in real life. Have you ever been around, like in your town, a death that has happened?
I have not personally, but I've been around a lot of dead bodies.
Where do you work?
Right now, I work for a cannabis company.
Why are they have dead bodies around it, or is that?
No, it's cool.
Okay,
we're a cool legal one.
Okay,
not like in the past.
Not like the Ellen DeGeneres ones.
Yeah, exactly. No, I used to study criminal justice, and then I was also I tried to do nursing for like 2 seconds, and that was boring. But I did forensics in criminal justice. Like that was my specialty area. So we like worked with cadavers, we worked with like crime scenes and stuff. It was pretty cool. But like that's where I spent a lot of time around dead bodies. But I wasn't like around them or knew what their stories were before death. So that's those things bother not bother me, bore me. Because if I don't know the story, then that's just a dead person that I don't care about.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the whole point is you don't want to be attached to him. Like, imagine if you found out who his family was and
Mm-hmm.
found out what you found out that you're working on a cadaver where the dude was a legendary hero that used to chop people up with like swords and shit. Because, like, if we think about
Yeah.
war, it's okay
Mm-hmm.
because they're the enemy. But if you think about, like, is that murder? I don't know. But
Yeah.
I guess for me, like, I've been around, like I've heard some crazy deaths, especially in my town. The problem is we're a beach town, and this actually came to me when I came across your page. Was like we had this incident like 3 years ago where a dad and like a bunch of little kids were on a pontoon boat, and there was a severe accident. They didn't hit anybody, but the dad got really drunk while he was supposed to be captaining the boat, and a couple of his kids like they're hanging off the edge of the boat, they fell in front of the pontoon boat. So a pontoon boat, I don't know if you know, is flat. So
Yeah.
you're hanging off the front with your feet in the water. A couple of the kids went down, chopped up by the blade.
Oh shit.
He killed one of them and the other one lived, but was completely just mutilated. And you read
Yeah.
that story, and like I remember DNR, all these natural resource police, they had to deal with that. And then they had to come into every single jet ski rental that I was working at, like mine, a bunch of the other ones in the area, and they had to put new restrictions on the boating. We all got questioned. It was this whole entire thing of like, hey, you got to be testing people before they get on here. It's this whole thing, but it's like, fuck, you realize how easy it is to at any moment you could die. At any moment
Yeah.
your heart could stop in the middle of this sentence. I could just stop right here. And it's like, how do you want to go out? Like, I want to be the type of person that goes out on my own accord, not like a suicide, but more like dying of a heroic death, you know? It
Yeah.
it brings into that whole mindset, but then that can also hit the other end of the spectrum where it goes, you fake death so many times, or you get to the point where you think you're invincible and start telling people you're God. And that's how Harry Houdini died. A lot of people don't really
Yeah.
realize how he died was the whole factor of he would be like, stab me or punch me in the stomach or do this or whatever to, that he could take it. And people would stab him and do all these things in his act. Then one night he's sleeping and two guys broke into his house. They fucking stabbed him while he was, or punched him as hard as they could in the chest. And I guess, wherever he had a heart attack or something from it.
Yeah.
Because they thought that he was God. Like, there's that mindset. He's like, oh, no, I wasn't flexing. It's like some dude just broke in your house and punched you. To me, that is interesting as hell.
Yeah. For sure. For sure. Death is just so interesting. Like
You gotta
hearing
laugh at it, dude.
exactly hearing a story like that is like it's just fun sometimes. I am not an advocate for talking about death like 24/7.
Yeah.
There's got to be other things, because if you're only talking about death, you may have problems more than me.
Well, either that or you're goth, or any person that posted a picture on MySpace when it was big, because those were all like the gothic pictures of he looks down. You did it, didn't you?
Oh, of course. I still have my MySpace activated. I check it every few months just to make sure that I can log back in, just in case.
I hit the age. I was at the age, I think, when I made a MySpace, all I wanted to do was there was an app you could feed a pet wolf over and over again. And I just kept playing that over and over and over. My brother got like a widget for his account where it was like, check out my wolf, it's red. And you would be able to feed it steak over and over again. I would just keep playing that. And I never posted up a picture, thank God.
Yeah, I did that, but I also definitely posted pictures myself. Definitely had like at least two in eyeliner, at least one with like my hair spiked up all crazy. Like,
I think it would look cool in a photo, but then at the same time, I look at it like that's a lot of fucking work.
oh yeah, I only did it the one time and I never did it again.
Like, have you ever like, I don't know, like went to the bathroom and been like, I'm gonna shave, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do some, like, I'm gonna clip my nails, and then you're like halfway through your hand and you're like, fuck, this is taking a long time. Like, this is something I don't want. There you go. So you work for a cannabis company. I
Dude,
don't smoke weed for this specific reason. My mind goes to very dark and horrible places when I smoke weed. And the reason why is one time I was sitting there high and I thought about what happens if you take a nail clipper and stick it onto your tooth and just clip. And my cousin
ow.
goes, "What the fuck?" It just starts going, "Why would you put that in my head?" And I'm like, "Do you ever just think though?" And he goes, "No, because I'm not insane." He goes, "Why are you thinking like that?" I'm like, "I don't know. My mind just won't stop going off." Like, you ever thought about what happens? And he's like, "Stop. Just stop right now. I don't want to hear it. Just stop smoking weed." I'm like, "Okay."
The worst part about that is that definitely happens in a horror movie. I don't know which one, but I've definitely seen that exact situation of someone getting a nail clipper onto their tooth. And I am now thinking and just seeing that scene over and over. So thank you for that.
It's like when fireworks were huge. You ever seen the movie Would You Rather? It was like the guy who plays in Trailer Park Boys lights off a firework or an M80 in his hand and it blows up and blows off his fingers or whatever.
Mhm.
That was a big fear back in the day. There was a movie with Ashton Kutcher where it was like the dude blew his arms off. And that was like the big. How many times did your parents tell you don't do that or you could die or you could die?
Yeah.
That was like a big thing growing up was like you could die. Now it's like you could hurt yourself. It's like, hold on a second. Let's bring in the fear aspect of hold on, we're mortal. Or like I think at a young age, you're basically invincible to anything when it comes to like pain. Like I got hit by a
Mhm.
fucking jet ski and I was at work 2 days later. So like I was okay. But like now that I'm like getting older and like I'm starting to realize there are moments you have where you get hurt and then it's like you know you're in critical condition. You're like, oh shit,
Mhm.
like I need to get out of this situation. I need to, be okay.
Yeah, there's definitely a moment where like, oh, this is it now. Oh, I'm dead now, right?
Yeah.
And then you still keep living just with pain now.
It's like I'm gonna have this limp forever.
Yeah.
That's terrible. But like for anybody listening, everyone's like, "Wow, how are they joking about death?" Okay, let's give you a newspaper article, for instance. In the newspaper article, it says 44-year-old guy was killed by those. What are those giant inflatable things you put on your hand that you bop 'em so you would punch people with?
Yeah,
A,
Boffins, I
a
think.
dude got killed by a bop 'em.
Yeah.
You read that, you're gonna be like, "What the fuck?" Like you're gonna laugh a little bit, and then you start reading into the article and see, oh wait, he had a brain aneurysm, and then it goes really deep. It's like just stop at the headline.
Yeah,
Stop at the headline.
exactly. You got it. You can't know more information than just the headline or specifically how they died.
And it
Dude
pissed.
falls out a window, sad. Dude falls out a window because he jumped into it over and over and over. A little bit funnier.
Yeah, he changed the narrative. Like there was I brought up a thing in a past episode where I was talking about they had the weirdest like ER scenario show. It used to be like a really old show back in the day where it was like they would show you the worst like emergency room scenarios of people coming
Mhm.
in with something. And a dude had a fucking tree branch in his neck, like a long one, like one you would roast s'mores on, like all the way through.
Yeah.
And like people are like, I don't want to know, I don't want to know, and they would just walk out. I'm like, I want to know. I want to
Yeah.
know how that could even happen, like spontaneously combusting. Like that was a big fear when I was a kid. I thought that was going to happen like any time in your life. Like I'm just going to hit 30, and when I'm blowing out the candles, I just catch on fire. Somebody blow me out, start running around. But I researched into it. The dude was mowing his lawn while a hurricane was going on, and a tree branch went right through his neck. And I'm like, that's funny. If that dude would have died that way, you're like, why the fuck are you mowing the lawn?
Yeah.
Science.
That's great. The combustion thing is funny because there were a lot of things that we like saw on TV and stuff as kids that we all grew up really fearful of, like quickstand, internal combustion, all that, not internal combustion.
Anacondas.
Anaconda, yeah, snakes just being in a pool. Just, like I don't know why that was one of my biggest fears when I was in pools as a child, but I definitely thought that there was going to be a snake at all times.
And people can't say some deaths are funny or not funny because if you ever see Piranha, that whole fucking movie, that was the point
Oh
of it.
yeah, of course.
Like the dude was eaten by. That's what scares me about swimming in the Amazon. Is if you start really looking into 1,000 ways to die, there's apparently a fish in the Amazon that when you pee in the water, it's
Hmm.
attracted to the urine and it goes straight up into, and then it releases spikes inside of your like so it hooks on there and you can't get it out. I'm like, I don't ever want to swim in the Amazon because I pee
Yeah,
in
no, I'm
every pool
good.
I've ever been in. There's people don't admit to that shit, which pisses me off, but I do it all the time. I don't care.
whether you mean to or not, too. Like a little bit of pee comes out of your body, no matter what, when you hit water. It's a
Exactly.
weird bodily function. Everyone does it. Get over it. But if you're the type of guy who like pees in the pool 5 times in a swim, that's when you have a
You
problem.
got a fucking bladder problem.
Yeah.
You're the person I don't want to take in car trips when we're going long distance. Where it's like, pull over, I got to pee. It's like, we just went 15 minutes ago. Would you say that through doing this, I guess the podcast, for instance, like talking about the deaths, that you've had any people like question things, like reach out to you?
No. So it's super weird. Um, so I did actually take a break for most of 2020 just because it's been a little bit of a weird year to be talking about death.
Putting that
Um,
lightly.
yeah. So I've only had 4 episodes this year total, which sucks for me, but like I've been in a weird place mentally, and if I'm gonna make a show where I kill myself, I'm not gonna be in a bad place and then do that because I think that that'll drag me down harder.
Yeah.
But I was doing it bi-weekly for a year before that, and all of the comments I was getting was like, wow, that's actually a pretty funny way to do it, and then nothing else. No one ever got on me for like, hey, you just talked about this dude who fell off the Eiffel Tower, and then you gave a video link to the dude falling off the Eiffel Tower. Like nobody ever comments on that stuff, which is very interesting to me.
Did he actually fall off an Eiffel Tower, or did someone push him?
So no, he did. It was this dude who was it was like the 1930s or 1940s. So it was like early film stuff. And this guy was testing out this flight suit. Uh, and instead of flying, he made a fall suit and immediately just plummeted straight down into the ground from the top of the Eiffel Tower. And they got it on video, and that's just on YouTube. Like you can watch that.
Yeah, I've come across a Facebook video of a dude on top of like a cell phone tower in like, I don't know, like
Mm-hmm.
India or something, and he jumped off, and I was like, oh, this has got to be like a fake thing, like edited like Bollywood style stuff. No, I watched this dude hit the ground and then
Yeah.
do like a little bit of a bounce and then hit back down, and then people ran over to him, and I was like, oh my god, you didn't even give me a graphic content warning. You just straight
Yeah.
up did that to me. I think that's when people get nervous about stuff. But you're telling me a dude tried to testing a flight suit off the Eiffel Tower? That's funny shit. That's like, come on now.
It was also the first test. When I think of doing
I
a
don't
test,
expect there to be
it
more.
wouldn't be the highest thing in the land.
Yeah,
It would be like the first story roof, maybe. I would try that first. But this dude was like, "No, I'm proud of this thing. Let's go off the Eiffel Tower." Whew.
I want to pick the biggest building in my country to
Yeah.
jump off of instead of
The
trying it
biggest,
off of a
most
roof.
iconic as well.
Oh my goodness. It's funny is because we look at death like people that like it's like watching NASCAR. Like people watch NASCAR, you're hoping for a crash, but you don't want to say that because it would seem rude. You don't want anybody to be hurt, but you want to see
Yeah.
that attention thing. But Evil Knievel, that was his shit. Doing stunts and stuff and literally like hoping that he was gonna make it, but you were kind of hoping you would see an explosion. You just didn't want anybody to get hurt.
That's why like the most rewatched YouTube clips of any sports games are the ones where people get like really seriously injured. People love that shit. They won't say that they do, but they love it.
So I'm saying, admit to your shit. It's like why I think true crime is so popular is because you like the
Mm-hmm.
thrill of like somebody doing a murder and understanding like the kind of the CSI behind it. But then at the same time, it's you when you're interested in something like that and you're interested, people always have those thoughts. People have a thought like, hey, remember back in the day when people used to go like this and squish your head? They used to squish your head. That used to be a huge thing. Now it's like we're all kind of holding that in and then we go home and scream into a pillow. It's like, no, you
Yeah,
gotta.
exactly.
Sometimes I'm talking to someone at the counter and I'm looking at them and they're giving me a lot of shit and I just want to take their head and start hitting against the table a couple of times. Maybe not actually do it, but it calms me down when I think about something like that. Maybe I'm sadistic. I don't know.
I have the same thought. Like if someone I've been having some issues with certain people in my life where they've annoyed me so much that like I have thought about just like stabbing them a little bit. I'm not going to do that
Yeah.
because I know that that's wrong, but my brain don't know how to stop thinking about that stuff.
It's like when you see OJ on like the front porch and he
Mhm.
has his hands behind his head just waiting for the cops to come, and you're like, I understand what he probably went through. I'm not never going to
Yeah.
get to that point where that happens, but I can see it. Like someone pisses you off really bad and you're like, just one click. Just I wish it's a simulation, right? So I could just go back if I wanted to. That's what they say.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
simulation done got broke.
what would you consider over drowning or on fire? Because that's whenever you ask someone, how would you want to die? Like, if I'm going to ask you, how would you want to die? How would you toss that out there? Because everyone always tosses out, I think, in my sleep. And it's like, no.
No.
Maybe drowning? No. Um, being on fire seems like the worst way to go. It's like, actually, it's pretty peaceful. I've talked to a lot of people who are burn victims, and they say it actually hits so far into the pain level where it's pleasure and it's like starts to feel good.
Yeah, I think I would rather go fire over water just because when your brain is being deprived of oxygen, you're still lucid for those moments. Like that's a long time of dying because you're going through that whole process. But when you burn to death, like it's not instant, but it's a lot less than just having your brain deprived of oxygen because everything's burning up instead. I would go fire. I'm gonna go fire then.
I saw the movie Halloween with Mike Myers. I guess he's
Mhm.
in all the Halloweens, but he was drowning the
Well,
guy that
except one.
plays. Well, he was drowning the guy that plays Jesus Trejo, not Jesus Trejo, Danny Trejo,
Mm-hmm.
Machete. He was
Machete.
drowning that guy in a sink, and I just kept thinking, instead of sitting there struggling and trying to get free, just start drinking the water. Like keep going and going and going until it doesn't stop. And maybe you can
Yeah.
get down to the point where there's no water left, and he's like, "Well, shit, now how I'm gonna kill you anyway?"
Yeah. One thing that I don't understand in like those movie scenes where someone's like drowning someone else, it's super easy to make your body go limp. And that's all they're looking for when they're drowning you. So you just go limp and then they like drop your body and walk away. You get up, you're alive still.
I think I've thought about that too a lot actually. I think it's the fact of when you're in that moment and it's happening so fast, you're really trying your best to struggle and get out of it, and you're not thinking like
Yeah.
that. Like I always thought, like, what would happen if I came across someone dying? And then I had someone in September die at my gym, and then I had to call 911, but I thought I was going to be in this like spring to action type moment. But
Mm-hmm.
it was like this whole like, holy fuck, like, you're in this moment of like, I don't know what to do. How am I going to handle this situation? Thank God he's alive still.
Yeah.
He gave me a Christmas card. It was nice of him. Uh,
That's really nice.
I did save his life, technically. I called
Yeah,
911.
technically, yeah. I think we all have that hero mentality until the moment we have to become a hero, and then we're like, "Oh, I'm just a bystander. I'm just a bystander here. Leave me out of this."
I think you got to get to a point where it's like, I don't give that shit about my life anyway. So if I'm going to go
Mm-hmm.
out, I might as well save someone's life. Like I'm at that point where I'm like, if I see someone break out a gun in a store, I would be the person that would be like, I got this shit. Like, at least go out trying to do it that
Yeah,
way. Because at that point, it's like,
I'm a little ready in my life to get shot. Like,
I
I think
mean,
you hit a level in your life where you're like, I could get shot today, and I'm kind of okay with it.
people don't take that into consideration when they're yelling at someone when they're driving a car. You don't know if that person's got a gun. It's like always make sure if you're going to fight someone, this could be their last thing. They could have a gun, they could have a knife.
Exactly.
My grandfather's 90, or my great grandfather was 90 something years old when he died. And by the time he was like in his like 85s, he was like, don't ever live this long. I'm like, why? He's like, everybody wants to live forever. And he goes, don't. You look like a goblin. People don't look at you the same. You can't hear shit. Everybody screams at you all the time. I feel like I'm miserable. And I'm like, really? Why are people screaming at you? He goes, because I have hearing issues. So that's the only way I can really hear you is if you're yelling at me at like level 50.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, damn, that sounds terrible. Yeah. So like, what's a ripe age? And I'm thinking 26. It's not too old, not too young.
Hey, I'm here. I'm here already. Let's go.
It's like the fucking, sometimes you look at this shit.
Yeah.
It's like, damn, this is what adult life is like. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, I prefer back in the day when I was a kid. That's why people do that weird fetish thing where they dress up as
Oh
babies.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't get the baby part. Like, if I want to go back, I want to go back to being like 6 or 7 those are prime years for me, at least. Baby time, just peeing, pooping, crying. None of that was fun for me. I
There's a
do that now.
There's a video in the UK of a dude who's a construction worker by day, but then he has a fetish of he has an older woman that takes care of him and changes his diaper and he poops and pees in it and stuff. It's like you watch that, it's like, is that a mental health issue? I think it's a feeling of wanting to be taken care of. Because I mean, whenever
Yeah.
you look at like a mental health issue or problem, there's usually something, there's a system that follows it. Like someone that thinks about like, I like to be choked. It's like, okay, well, you obviously like the abusal factor of it. It's like, we talked about like, oh, that dude shot himself or something. Robin Williams is the biggest example when it comes to that. Now that's a horrible death, but he played in
Yeah.
a movie called World's Greatest Dad.
Hmm.
I really recommend it because a lot of people have not seen this movie, but it showed death in a different perspective of what you do if you were a parent and you came across it. His son was jacking off by having a belt tied to his neck. And he walked in on his son, and his son's like, Dad, what the fuck? He's like, oh my God. He's like, and then they're having this awkward car ride home. And then it's like the next day or something. He's like, yeah, stop doing that because it could kill you. And he's like, oh, or whatever. Next day, he goes in and he sees his son doing it again. He's like, oh, Jesus. And he shuts the door. He's like, come on, dude, what the fuck did we just say? And his son doesn't respond back. And he's like, James? You know his name's James. James? And he opens up the door and his son's dead. And he goes, oh my God, like, how am I going to deal with this? So what he does is
Yeah.
he unties the belt around his son's neck and grabs a tie from his closet and he puts his son's body up in his closet to make it look like it was a suicide.
Hmm.
So people wouldn't know that's not how he actually died. It was the other thing. And seeing that, I was like, Jesus, like how many times is it like you read across something and it's just the way it's phrased or it's just the way it's said and what actually
Yeah.
had conspired on that night?
Yeah.
That
For
dug
sure.
into a deep hole.
A little bit.
Not fucking dark.
I've seen like 3 scenes from that movie. None of them were that one.
I mean, look, if I die by the one time I tried to stick, like, you ever think that maybe something happened in your life and you didn't make it out of it?
Oh yeah, all the time.
I had an occasion where I had a piece of toast in the toaster when I was like 7 years old and I couldn't get it out. So I grabbed a knife and I stuck my knife into the toaster and tried to scrape it out. Fucking blew up on me. Did I die? I don't know. But if I'm in a coma right now, fucking, I can't lucid dream. It's impossible. Like, you ever had a
Yeah.
dream where it's like, I don't know, you're banging in the rain, but you want to go inside. Let's bang on the couch or something. But the scene doesn't change. You just keep banging in the rain. It's like,
Yeah.
I want to go inside. It's my dream. Why can't I control it?
Yeah. God, if this were my coma, I had done something wrong, I think.
It makes me wonder, like, when glitches happen, like deja vu
Hmm.
or something, it's like, hold on a second. Am I in a, maybe assimilation is my coma. Maybe we're all in comas right now.
Maybe.
2012 did happen.
Listen, I wouldn't be shocked if we were all in a simulation, but I like to think that we're not. I like to have that little bit of hope that we're not, because if we are, then everything we've done so far and everything we will do just doesn't matter in a sense.
What does it matter if the world explodes?
True. True.
It makes me think of future deaths. And the reason why I say that is, like, you know, all these people talk about like space travel, all these types of things, building colonies on the moon or something. Okay, well, what happens if we built a colony underwater? Sounds fun, right? I would love to live underwater.
Nope.
But then you get a psychopath. And imagine there's one tunnel in and out of the underwater civilization. And that one dude just takes a gun, points it at the side of the wall and goes, no, if somebody doesn't do what I say right now, if I don't get $10 billion, I'm going to blow a hole in this thing and kill us all. It's like,
Yeah.
see, there's always going to be murder. There's always going to be death. It's just going to take new form. Soon we're going to be airlocking people.
Yep.
That's a sad death, being airlocked. I would not want to be that guy.
No. I'm sure I could make it funny, but I'm good.
These are pitches for you. These are your next episodes.
These are the next episodes.
It's like what do you call it? The people's temple or Heaven's Gate people. The one's like, we're gonna drink a bunch of Kool-Aid, and the next thing you know, it's like nobody drank the Kool-Aid but the one main guy. Everyone else is like, I'm not fucking doing that. Like, thank you for the guy that has common sense. It's like, hey, I don't want to do that. That sounds awful. It's like, but we'll be together in the afterlife where the aliens will be. It's like,
but we're together right now. Why do we have to go? I I have a meeting on Tuesday. Why?
like, I have like a birthday party on Wednesday,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty fucking stoked on the gifts I'm getting.
Have you had cake recently? It's very good.
Have you been to Chuck E. Cheese? Because let me tell you, they don't lie when you say you get a cup full of tokens.
And listen, I know it's 2020. They're open. So let's go.
They had the original coronavirus, I think, in their opinion. If you've ever been to a Chuck E. Cheese, if you're getting like I had a person that was like, I love going to Chuck E. Cheese because the pizza's amazing. I'm like, if you're going to Chuck E. Cheese just for the fucking pizza, there's something wrong with you. Their literal mascot is a rat. Like,
yeah. It's the one weirdest thing where like the one creature you don't want in a restaurant is their mascot, and you want your children to hug that mascot too. So when you go to like little Geno's down the street and they see a rat in there, they're like, this place is high class.
I can see the headline now. Boy hugged mascot at Chuck E. Cheese, then picked up dead bird across the street. Not same thing. It's like, all right, come on now. Come on, people. It's like, you know how many times I was warned when I was a kid not to pick up a bird feather because it might have diseases on it? And I'm like, all right, explain to me the Native
I wasn't the only one
Americans.
told not to pick up feathers. A
Why?
lot of people were told not to pick up the actual birds. I was told not to pick up the feather, which is ridiculous.
Yeah. Apparently, because it comes out of its skin or something, there's that little like end piece that could have like some type of disease on it. I'm like, honestly, with as much as we're germexing right now, we're probably pretty immune to a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
My intolerance was through the roof back in the day because I was drinking from the garden hose, which apparently was a bad thing, but I'm fine.
We all are. That's the worst part. Our I think you're about the same age as me. I don't actually know.
You're
I'm
my
just
brother's
guesstimating.
age. I think he's older than you by a year. You said you're 26, right?
Yeah.
I'm 22.
Oh God, you're a little baby child.
What? No, you can't say that when you're that only 4 years older than me. That's there's
But there's such a difference between those 4 years, though.
it's just the 90s. Like you had an earlier part of the, but that's a weird part of the 90s.
I had part of the 90s.
I had the end, I guess, part of the 90s and the 2000s. Like I still remember Drake and Josh. I remember like the good.
But that's 2000s. See, you've already thrown out your cred.
What about Johnny Bravo?
Okay, that one's closer. Not
Courage
exactly
the Cowardly Dog.
Still 2000s, dog.
The red ticket machines at the Food Lion.
I didn't live near a Food Lion.
They used to pop out coupons for you. Remember the little red square boxes?
Oh yeah, I love those things.
Used to take.
So that okay. I used to live in North Carolina for like 5 years, and when I was there last, I went to a Food Lion and they had them again, but I had been to that Food Lion before. They didn't have them. So I don't know why those are making a comeback in 2019 was the last time I was there.
Maybe they just don't. Maybe they just kept the same thing. Like I don't want to force change. I don't want to evolve. Like everyone's getting the Neuralink. You're gonna find a lot more deaths. Like dude downloaded unlimited porn onto his head and it couldn't stop, so he ended up dying of unlimited porn. Like how many times look up that number? How many times has someone jacked it in a day? It's probably up there.
There was a world record broken in like 2007, I think.
The fuck we handing out world records for, man? I'm gonna look at that and be like, challenge accepted. Then after the third time, I'm like, I can't keep doing this. I got shit to do. I got a fucking life to live. Come on now. Spend half your time jacking
The weirdest thing is for a world record or like a Guinness Book of Records or whatever, you have to have someone there watching you.
Oh God,
so
that guy likes to watch.
That's got to be the worst job for that dude, but also the worst sensation to have to be like 27 or 28 times jerking it, like in front of a dude who's just vehemently watching you
I want
Do
to
it.
know who that guy
Like,
was that like signed up for it. It's like, when all the kids in school are picking out things out of a hat, like you're going to be the next astronaut. It's like you're going to be the guy that does the world records, and one day you're going to have to come across a dude that jacked it this many times in one day, and you have to sit there and watch every single one, and you have to stare in his eyes when it's happening.
I don't know if that makes it worse or better if you have to stare in the eyes of the person.
Look, my main thing is if I die or something, I don't want people to be around me when I shit myself, because that's what happens.
Oh yeah. That's my number one worry just in casual life. Cause okay, my stomach hates the shit out of me, literally. So any given moment, I could be about to shit myself in life. Not really, but like it feels that way.
Dude, okay. Do you actually, okay, because this is a big thing. This is actually when I said that I had some medical stuff, for instance. So
Mm-hmm.
I haven't shit 54 days. So is that the same issue
The
as you?
fuck? What?
Mine doesn't come out. I have the feeling to go, but it doesn't happen. And it's like a severe medical thing I've been dealing with since fucking December 31st, which is my
Yeah,
birthday.
that's a
Shout out to me.
huge
But
issue, dog.
yeah, so on November 5th, I had my 5th court date with my insurance company, and they didn't show up all 5 fucking times. And my judge finally ruled in my favor. So the reason why, he was like, dude, it's John Hopkins, bro. Like, I can't just rule it in your favor because it's John Hopkins. I'm like,
Yeah.
if it was me and I didn't show up once, you would have ruled in their favor immediately. You know what I mean? But I finally got it, and now I still have to take this medication for like 30 days before I can get the one I actually need. So it's another fucking loophole. But yo, I was just wondering, like, because I always talk about it all the time, but like my farts are killer, bro. Like it's
I
dead,
bet.
and that's how I'm gonna die, is like not shitting.
Oh my god. Yeah, that sounds horrifying. No, I don't have that problem. I'm just like ready to shit whenever whenever time
Let me tell
what
you
just
something.
whenever.
Grasp onto that and never let it go, because the one thing I only enjoyed in life was taking a dump, and now it's gone. So it's like, damn, like there is truly nothing else to live for. Now my doctor might seem right after me saying that. I love life. It's amazing, especially when you get a poop going. Good God.
God, bud, that's wild.
It's uncomfortable.
I bet.
Yeah. It's nice though, because like this morning I farted and I woke up and it was under the covers. So I like Dutch ovened myself. And I was like, Jesus, like I pride
That's a way to
myself.
kill yourself right there.
I pride myself in them, dude. Like that stuff you could put in a bomb and hurt somebody.
That's mustard gas right there.
Death by smelling salts.
I'm sure it exists,
Have you ever
but
smelled?
it's probably like an allergy that
No,
actually killed them. But
no. Have you ever smelled smelling salts?
no, I haven't.
It's like a shot. I work at a gym, so I come across powerlifters who smell them before a lift, and then they go in. Yo, it's like, I don't know, like someone took an adrenaline shot and jumped it into your heart or something. Like I smelled it, my eyes went like I was a crackhead, and like opened up, like ripped open the eyelids and stuff, and I felt like I could lift up a car. But imagine, I was studying that, like what is that supposed to be? And it's apparently like the amount of adrenaline that pumps through your body based on like this thing literally feels like, when you see the COVID test where they take a swab and it goes up your nose. It's like that, but through smell. Like it feels like something that is so powerful and stench breaks your nose barrier and goes into your freaking brain, where your eyes start feeling cold. Like your eyes will feel cold. I'm like, yo, there's someone that sniffed this and had like a brain aneurysm from it.
I bet. Well, I've never had smelling salts explained to me in my life. This is the first time I'm finally understanding what that is. I thought it was literally like just herbs and spices or some shit.
It's like, it looks exactly like the salt you would see as you salted your doorstep, but like this dude made his own custom ones. But it was like, when you
Damn.
sniff Germex and it like makes your eyes water, it's like
Yeah.
that times 1,000, and it's inside of your brain. Like if when you drink a Slurpee really fast and it's really cold, it's like that. But it's like
That's wild.
it's not like a smell where you're like, oh, I can smell something bad. No, it's like something where it's like when you sniff it, it hits you like you just got punched in the face. Like you're like, what the fuck? Like that's why it wakes up dead people, or wakes up people that are knocked out, is because they smell
Yeah.
that.
Damn.
You got to get a
I'm
Mormon on your
surprised.
show, bro. You got to get a Mormon on there. I'm telling you,
Probably.
they have a thing in their religion where they have a magic oil that hangs from their neck, like on their necklace or something, and
Mhm.
it's supposed to bring somebody back to life when they die. These to put up the oil. You got to talk to someone about that and be like, "Yo, would you want to resuscitate the guy that tried to beat up his neighbor with a peanut allergy by rubbing peanut butter on his hands?"
That's great.
Oh my goodness! I have to ask, what is your all-time favorite one, dude? You named the one that the people would like, but what's your all-time favorite?
Um, yeah, it's just so hard to do because all of them, I like all of them. Um, the entire reason I started the show was the dude falling out of the window because that was the first one where I was like, "Damn, that's funny. I want to talk about how funny that is." So I guess that would have to be my favorite because I've never felt that way about any other one yet. Or God, I don't know. It's a really hard question.
I mean, it makes sense
I'm
that would
I'm
be your
gonna say the
favorite.
window one for now.
It makes sense that would be your favorite on the concept of it got you started to do a whole podcast about stuff like that. I
Yeah.
mean, I just want to know if it was it maybe murder? Maybe the guy cleaning the windows forgot to lock it?
No, the you know how like a window frame is set in the wall?
Yeah.
The part where it's set fell through. So like the whole window and the pane went out.
That sounds like a way I would go. I wouldn't even think to reinforce that.
Well, he definitely didn't, and neither did the. Well, to be fair, the company that the law office that he worked for when they set up the windows and everything, I'm sure that they didn't expect him to throw his body into it so much.
Wow. How many interviews was he doing a day?
Too many,
That's
apparently.
the number you got to calculate. Like, yo, this guy's booking 20 interviews a day. We need to keep checking that glass. Like every time he
Yeah.
jumps into it, like Jesus. Like he eats a burrito one day and just runs himself against the wall. And that extra couple pounds that he added on from the burrito freaking shifts the wall. I don't know. That's just crazy to me. I've heard way too many death stories. Like a dude got had a 9/11 dispatcher on here one time.
Mhm.
Actually, no, he was a first responder, I think, not firefighter, but like EMT. So he showed up on the scene and he got a call. It was a knife injury, like a person was stabbed with a knife. He
Right.
rolls up and the dude got stabbed with a samurai sword. And he was like, that's a different fuck. You can't, when you call someone saying, I got stabbed, people are going to think a knife. You need to say, I got
Yeah.
stabbed with a samurai sword because that's a different process. We're going to show up thinking we're going to patch a hole that's about the size, maybe the length of like your middle finger. No, no, no. This thing rammed all the way through you to the other side and then they pulled it out. So that's a whole different scenario.
Yeah. God, that's wild.
I feel like life is this thing that's gone in a second. And it's supposed to be enjoyed. People are like, it's like a fine wine. You got to sip it. I'm like, or just do whatever you really want as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else. You know what I mean? You got to have fun with it. I mean, it doesn't last forever. Doesn't mean I want to go skydiving. I'm not pro that, but at the same time, I when it comes to trying not to stress over shit.
Hmm. That's definitely a running theme for like right now because there's a lot of stress and a lot of like insecurity in life where we are right now, but like there's still little things you can do that are gonna like smooth out what's happening. I guess I don't know.
I think 2021, you just got to try your best to make better. This is like a mulligan. We got to get another one. You know what I mean? You got to
Yeah.
do a do over. But I mean, it's interesting because like you find what people are really passionate about too. Like I try and ask people what's the good they pulled out of this thing. You get to focus on a lot of your crafts and find out who you truly are in all this. I mean, you literally got a free break from work, even though that was kind of like a bad thing. But look at the optimistic side of, hey, maybe you get to explore something you never thought of.
For sure.
Yeah, that's the world, Nick. We're living in it.
Yeah. We do be living.
I can't believe you work for a cannabis company.
Yeah, me neither, because I do not smoke weed.
Wow, that's who they need to hire though, because you don't want anybody smoking all your product.
So actually my company doesn't touch flour at all, which is the worst thing.
So you just
We
sell the bottles?
No, we do accessories and stuff. So like grinders, ashtrays. We have this box. Um, it kind of looks like a book, and then you open it up, and inside it's magnetic. Super. It's a cool product. I don't personally like use it for anything because I don't smoke weed at all. And then we have like some vapes and stuff, and then we have some cool next gen technology that we just released.
I'll only stick to the old stuff. I don't like all the new technology that's coming out because I'm like, I can easily hurt myself using the old stuff. Why would I want to evolve
Yeah,
into the new
exactly.
stuff? It's like back in the day when cell phones, like dudes talking on a cell phone for so long it explodes. Like you remember that fear that they used to put in your head? Cell
Yeah,
phones explode. It's like the dude had it in his car on a 150-degree day or 110-degree day, and then he starts
yeah.
using it 24/7. Like, damn right, the battery's going to explode to it. It's like, good
He was
God.
also using like the shittiest, lowest tier batteries when he plugged it into it. Like again, a little bit his fault.
This is the Darwin Awards. Welcome to the club. I'm thinking because like if there's a what is it the Nobel Prize, I guess Neil deGrasse Tyson would be the best person to like award those Nobel prizes, to
Mhm.
people because he's so of high character. You'd be like the guy who awards the Darwin Awards.
I wish. Let me host a Darwin Award, please.
Call him like just get a bunch of videos together. It's like AFV, except this time the people don't make it out. Like people loved watching other people get hit in the nuts. What makes
Yeah.
this show any different?
I mean, listen, people tuned in for 1,000 Ways to Die in like en masse. So we just make it a little more real and they'll come.
If you make it, they will come for sure. Everybody's so bored they don't want to watch the debate anymore. They just want to watch people do horrible things. So like the debate.
Well, yeah, like the debate.
Thousand Ways to Die had a wrong way of doing it though, is that they used to say nasty things at the ending of them, like when the dude
Mhm.
blew up his face with a bong or whatever, he was like plastered. I was like, that's fucking terrible. Like
Yeah.
it was already horrible enough watching, but I'm going to see the next episode too. And I love it when they get a forensic person in there and it's like Mortal Kombat where they show the skeleton and the body and all this stuff. I'm like, oh, God, I really didn't want to see that.
There's definitely an interest in like the actual way of death, but then when you see it, you're like, maybe I didn't like this actually. And then they go back to the jokes. You're like, okay, I'm back in.
I mean, it's fun again. It's fun again. This is something I can clap to. Nick, I can't believe you're going to be able to get sleep after this weird discussion, but if murder lulls you to death or sleep,
I mean, so this is about the time I fall asleep anyways, most days. So hopefully I'll be able to get some good sleep.
I hope you have the sweetest dreams. Like they're just dreams of like being in a hospital and everyone's coming back to life. So you're like, hooray! This is the opposite of what I wanted.
That would be horrifying because that's a zombie dream.
That's why I say don't live next to a cemetery because when that does happen,
God,
you're the
true.
first to
Yeah.
go. The first to go.
Yeah.
That's you want to promote the podcast at all?
Sure. Yeah. I'll it's a thing I do, so I should do that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so my name's Nicholas, obviously, as
Hi,
you've
Nick.
heard several times. Hi, Rob. let's just start over.
Welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank Pod. I'm just kidding.
I host the How Will I Die podcast, which is I made a mistake when I started my podcast, by the way, which was not taking my last name, which is Howe, and using that in the title.
Oh man.
That is the thing that I've heard the most shit about.
Could you do
People be
like the
like, why
insert
didn't
the
you
E
do
thing?
How with an E?
Could you do like the pyramid with the E on top of it, like when
I
they mean that's
probably could,
to
but
insert it?
it's too late now.
Oh,
I'm already 27 or
you're
28
in too
episodes
deep.
in. Yeah. Beans. All right. But yeah, I do the How Will I Die podcast. It's a comedy improv podcast based on real life deaths where I kill myself every episode in 1 or 5 ways. And then also I did a D&D thing for 6 episodes. Don't know why I did that. It was super easy to cut up though. So
So
Enjoy it.
I've never heard anybody say like, "This is an episode where I kill myself," but it's like I never seen someone say that with such enthusiasm, where you had the finger twist and all, and I was like, "Yes."
You gotta listen. If you're gonna kill yourself for a podcast, then you gotta be like super enthusiastic about it.
It's like if life had quick saves, where you could just quick save and then hop into like a blender and then load the
Exactly.
quick save.
I do it as I'm watching a YouTube full of Nicholases who die. So a Nick tube.
It's the Nick at Night.
Hey,
That's a 90s reference.
that is a 90s reference.
Okay. I was
The card
talking
is
about
still gone, but
Drake and Josh was on there sometimes.
Debatable.
What do you mean debatable?
Debatable. I don't remember Drake and Josh being on the Nick at Night lineup. I remember Fresh Prince. I remember Friends.
Yes.
I remember Rocco's Modern Life being on the Nick at Night
I
lineup.
barely remember that.
Of course you barely remember it because you weren't alive.
I used to watch Fresh Prince every morning before school with a buttered bagel, sir.
Why buttered?
Because I didn't like sour cream. Or mayo.
Why sour cream?
Cream
Why
cheese?
wouldn't you use cream cheese?
Whatever. I don't know the difference between cream cheese. I don't know the difference between cream cheese, sour cream. It's all the same shit. The consistency.
They're not the same shit. They're very different consistencies and tastes.
No, you don't eat cheese regularly without anything on it, okay? First of all, cheese sweats. Never trust a food that sweats. That's ridiculous to live by.
I mean, people sweat. People eat people.
Where?
I'm sure in various places on Earth.
No, I still can't even think about it. A nice buttered bagel that was in the microwave for 20 seconds, and where the butter is just melted.
You microwaved the bagel?
Yeah, I microwaved the bagel. I don't need to toast it.
You're a monster.
Toaster takes too long. I like it soft.
But it makes it better.
I like it soft.
I will say I do like my bagels softer, actually.
And
Can't say anything against it.
What else did I watch too? The Fresh Prince was probably the main thing before school. Sometimes I would watch. No, I hated Samurai Jack.
Why?
Because there's a show where they didn't talk at all. Like, what the fuck kind of shit am I watching? There's one deaf person in the corner, like, what's happening? What is happening? It's like, I don't know either. Yeah, Johnny Bravo is probably my favorite. And then, yeah, that's about it. It's the only thing I can really remember that would be considered 90s, 2000s. I'm like Drake and Josh, The Amanda Bynes Show. Damn, I really didn't watch a lot of TV when I was a kid, did I?
I don't think so.
Yu-Gi-Oh! was 90s.
Yeah, I was a Yu-Gi-Oh!, Digimon, Pokemon, and Power Rangers person.
Digimon was the shit, dude.
Literally, just before we got on this call, I was working on an article for a site that I write for about Digimon.
Send it to me, please. I love Agumon. I love that fucking... I'll never get a new car or go to a car dealership because when I was a kid, I sat there for 3.5 hours watching Digimon in the waiting room because my parents were trying to get a new car, and it took 3 hours fucking long. And it felt like 8 years because I kept napping and kept waking up, and I was like, we're still fucking here? And it's like, it was fucking terrible. Like every time I turn on Digimon, I'm like, this is the day we got that new truck. Please send me that article, and thank you,
absolutely,
Nick, for giving me your time today.
No problem.
Is there anything else you want to add to the end of the show? Like, don't kill yourself, or
yeah, I mean, like, don't kill yourself if you're suicidal. Call a hotline, talk to someone about it.
That's actually there's a real. It's free too. That's what's amazing about people. Is there an actual line that you can call?
Take care of yourself. It's tough times, but
eat a bagel with butter on it.
Eat a microwave bagel with butter on it, and listen to the Out of the Blank podcast.
No, you don't have to do that one. That will actually probably might make you kill yourself. Just listen to Nick's amazing show. Okay, it's a better show than mine, and it has fun deaths that anybody can entertain for the whole family.
Not for the whole family.
Okay,
children should not listen to my show.
Anybody over 18, wink to the kids that are under 18 because you know they're gonna watch it anyway.
TV 13.
It's like South Park, but audio.
Yes, like South Park.